Let's take a look at the radiator damage on my 2025 DR-Z4S that happened during my incident on the Washington Backcountry Discovery Route. So I'll have a link down in the description below. This is a really neat work light that I bought from Home Depot. It's on a little tripod stand. It will actually raise up one more level. It works really, really well for working on the bike, and it's got 3 little light heads that pull out and then they pivot and swivel and whatnot. So you can see here how the radiator is folded back quite a bit. The fan and the little guard around the fan are completely smashed. So the fan blade won't even spin because it's jammed into the radiator. So the fan housing and guard and all of that, it's all one integrated unit. So that entire unit is going to have to be replaced. It'll be interesting to see how many fins have been damaged on the back side of the radiator because of the radiator impacting the fan. It's hard to say if the radiator will have to be replaced or if I can get it fixed. There's a well-known motorcycle radiator repair shop down in Utah called Myler's Radiator Repair. I've actually used them for a previous radiator when I heard about them on a forum back in 2006 when I smashed the radiator on my 02 DR-Z. It was really cheap to send the radiator down there, and I was amazed that they were able to fix it considering how badly it was damaged. Looking up above the radiator, I don't see any issues with the ABS system. None of this took any kind of an impact. The impact clearly happened way down here, which pushed the whole radiator back. Ignition coil, that's fine. Nothing appears damaged there. So it's looking like it's just the radiator and this piece, which is the little air deflector that guides air into the radiator, and also the side panel / radiator shroud, which attaches to the tank shroud. And here's a kind of a visual looking at the front of the radiator. Nothing else looks damaged back there. The horn bracket and horn didn't even get bent or damaged, so that's a pretty clear indication that all of the impact happened right here. The tank shroud and the radiator shroud, they are 3 pieces that are all attached to each other. So on the back side we have a small screw right here, and then we have 2 little tabs that are part of the radiator shroud. Actually there's 3, one here, here, and here, and those tabs slide into little notches on the tank shroud. So hopefully we can replace just this radiator shroud / side panel. I'm sure that I could probably salvage it by applying some heat from a hairdryer or a heat gun and flattening it back out. And here's one of the things I don't like about the gray, is that it shows every little minor scratch and scuff right in this area, from here all the way back, even up here on the tank shroud. That is all smoothed out to a flat, non-glossy surface now because I rub that as I'm riding with my knees and my riding pants, and that's going to happen to anybody on any bike. But it sure does take a beating. And the other side is the same way. So we got some pretty major road rash here from skittering along the berm when I went down. And we actually have another tab up here that I realized it just sort of popped out of place. Right in that area. The brake rotor guard that I got when I purchased the bike, this is a Suzuki accessory, it definitely saved any scuffs and impact damage to the lower tube of the fork and the pinch bolt assembly and everything. So you can see here we got some rash going on right there. And we've got a pretty good amount of road rash on the back as well. And it was a dirt road that I went down on, and I didn't even tip over completely flat. The bike ended up falling down into a big wide wheel track that was probably about I'm gonna guess at least a foot deep or close to a foot deep, and I was riding on top of the center hump in the road, and all the loose dirt and everything is what caused me to go down. And plus I'm still running the stock tires, so that probably contributed to the problem. And the reason I was sort of biased towards the center of the road is because there was a bunch of brush that was sort of pushing me over towards the middle of the road, and just lost my traction due to the front tire. The combination of that and the loose dust and dirt and silt and everything in that rut, as well as on top of that berm in the middle of the road. So basically the bike kind of slipped down off the hump into the wheel track. I lost traction, tipped over, and kind of slid sideways down the road a little bit. So we got lots of rash going on the black piece and on the gray portion as well. While I'm showing the crash damage, I figured I'd show you some other tips and tricks. So on the radiator shroud and tank shroud, we have 3 different bolts. They're all different lengths and different styles. And then, so what I've done here is put little labels in each of these little compartments, and then put the bolts for that respective bolt location into each of these compartments with their respective label. So the bottom radiator shroud bolt is a longer bolt with a little shoulder on it and a big flange. The middle bolt is also sort of long, but it's a little bit shorter, and it has a flange on it. And then our top bolt has a flange as well, but it's a really stubby short bolt. And then over here I've got my 2 seat bolts. I have the side panel top, which I'll show you where that goes, and then the side panel bottom. I didn't end up taking the side panel off, but this would be the side panel bolt that allows you to get access to the air filter. So I'll point that out real quick. It would be this bolt right here. The top bolt that I mentioned, it's that bolt. And I only needed to take this off, that bolt, so that I could pull this side panel out to get this entire tank and radiator shroud assembly off. I didn't need to take this entire side panel off, but later on I will, because I do want to clean the air filter, so then I'll take that bolt off. That poor radiator is so sad looking. That's still all the damage I see so far, the radiator and the fan and the fan housing. The fan housing and the fan, it's one great big giant unit. So I've got the coolant drained, so now we're going to go ahead and unbolt the radiator. Once I get the radiator unbolted, then we should find a connecting hose up at the top that goes over to the other radiator. During my process of repairing the bike with the damaged radiator, I'm going to change the oil again too. So since it's going to sit here in the garage for a while, I put a note on it, no oil, because right now I'm not going to refill it with oil. I'll do that probably in a few days. So one of the challenges we face, let's go back over here to the other side, is the hose that connects the 2 radiators together at the top is buried back here under the ABS pump. I thought maybe that I could get to the hose clamp by pulling out the bolts that hold the ABS pump in place, but that turned out to be not exactly an easy task, because this bolt is buried behind this hard line. So once I got those 2 bolts out, then I realized, well, this isn't going to work at all. It's not going to do me any good, because with this hard line here and another hard line right there, there is no ability to move that ABS pump and get access to that hose. So going over here to the other side, what I've had to do is unbolt the coolant reservoir, unbolt the radiator, and then I could get to this hose clamp right here. So that hose clamp currently is sitting up here at the top of that radiator. I probably didn't need to unbolt that radiator to get to the hose clamp, but you need to unbolt the radiator some so that you have the ability to pull the radiator outlet tube out of the hose. All four of the bolts that hold the radiators in place, both sides, are the same length, so I have them in their own little bin here in this tray. So I got the radiator out, so let's take a closer look at it. So I'm going to point out a few things from my own future reference. So the radiator sits like this in the bike. So we have this hose clamp oriented where the little tab is pointing pretty much straight down, and then the little notched piece is pointing for the most part straight up. So I think what I'm also going to do is take a Sharpie pen and draw a line across here that lines up with that what looks like a little seam or a machining mark on the outlet tube. That way when I put this hose back together, it's oriented in the right direction, so this lines up perfectly with the other radiator. And then we can kind of see the marks on this. So on this hose, the clamps were pretty much right over here in this area, up against the frame of the bike, so you couldn't get at it until everything was taken apart and unbolted. And we can see the marks here, the imprints from that clamp. The bottom clamp actually fell off into my little coolant tub right there because I was trying to drain any more residual coolant out before I pulled it off, and the clamp dropped in. But we'll be able to see the other imprints on this hose as far as how the clamp was oriented. I will fish that clamp out and position it back onto this hose how it was. So we can see here that the fan and fan housing is completely shredded. Smashed into the radiator at an angle. So that is probably going to be an expensive part to replace. Radiator can probably be salvaged. We'll send that off to Myler's Radiator Repair. Yeah, you can see how this is all tweaked here too. It is just an absolute mess. So we have a flat part here because it didn't imprint and bend due to the fan, but then this portion here completely bent out of shape. What a disaster. I can honestly say that this is one drawback to buying a brand new model bike, is that you don't have all the protection parts available to keep things like this from happening, like skid plates and radiator guards and frame guards. We don't have frame guards either. That's something I want to get right now. I have some clear number plate style material over the frame to protect it from getting scratched to heck from my boots. Everything up here looks okay. This looks like it's bent, but it's not. It's this little bracket has an angled piece on it. This is actually situated up here, and then this is our connector that plugs into the cooling fan, and then this here pops into that little slot. I took this off and this out to get to that bolt. So once I get that bolt and this other bolt tightened back down, then I'll just go ahead and put all this stuff back in place. And tomorrow will be a trip to the motorcycle shop to get some pricing on body panels, radiator, and this piece might be salvageable. I don't know. It's kind of tweaked a little bit, but we'll see. As far as the radiator shroud, that I mentioned earlier, that piece comes off of the tank shroud, so I should be able to just get that one piece, and then we'll just go from there.